What's good, y'all? Okay, I just woke up from a nap, but I've been wanting to do this, so I really want to get this out. What was on my mind? So this idea of should we accept ice cream dates, because that image has been going around. I know you've seen it, where basically a guy was like, "Hey, it's kind of hot. I'm feeling this heat. Let's meet for an ice cream date." And she said something like, "Sir, I'm a 26-year-old woman. I'm sorry, but I don't do ice cream dates," or blase split. I forgot what else she said. And then it just sparked this whole debate about should women accept ice cream dates. But I'm just going to add ice cream and or coffee because it just feels like that is it's similar. But anyway, okay, I have thoughts about this. Here is the thing. I think the thing that people are leaving out of this conversation is, in a lot of ways, it does come down to preference. I don't think if a woman doesn't accept an ice cream or a coffee date that she is being bougie or too much, or that she's being overbearing, or that she's unrealistic or whatever. Because I've heard a lot of negatives. And then I've also heard on the flip side, the negative with men is if a man is just trying to give you an ice cream date or a coffee date, then he is broke, that he's cheap, that he's irresponsible, that he's not taking dating seriously, and just all of this stuff that's like, y'all, sometimes preference is just coming to play. So for me, I have women in my life, at least one or two, who just don't accept coffee dates and ice cream dates. I happen to like them. It's a preference thing. Here is why. Because for a first date, sorry, I should clarify. All of this whole conversation is a first date, on a first date basis. Because I have been on a number of, so in the last year, I decided to just go ham on dating. So y'all, I have went ham. When I say ham on dating, I have went ham on dating in the last year. I've been on a ton of dating apps. I've been on a ton of dates. I don't even know how many, like a lot. I didn't sit down and count them, but like maybe 40 dates, like a lot of dates. Almost every Wednesday night or Saturday night I was going on a date. Sometimes with the same person, sometimes a lot of first dates. Anyway, I have been on very simple coffee dates, and I've been on these big, elaborate, expensive dinner dates. And this is why I prefer the low-key thing, because when you're just meeting someone, I actually prefer to be a little bit more casual. So like in the winter, you know, a nice sweater, but like hair's done, makeup's done, nice pants or jeans, and really nice boots. But just more casual. Than sometimes a dinner date is a little bit more of a dressed up occasion. And for a first date, I don't actually really like doing all of that work and effort, because I don't really know if it's gonna pan out, and it just feels like a lot of work and effort that I don't feel like. I also don't mind a first date or a coffee date because it's just a little bit easier to leave. You can always leave. Women, we can always leave a coffee date or a ice cream date. I'm sorry, we can always leave a dinner date. But with a coffee date, it's easier, because I think I've done, out of all my dates in this last year going crazy, I think I did like maybe 5 coffee dates, and part of me liked that because they were men that I realized like I'm just kind of giving a chance to. I'm exploring a new demographic. I'm exploring like a new range. Like for a little while I was exploring men who were like in the 6 to 8 range. Because I usually just really like men who I perceive to be in like the 8 to 10 range. And so then I was exploring something different, and I just kind of want to meet with men who are in the like more of the 6s, can see if there was different. I just was using this time to explore. But there was this one guy, he wanted to take me to Olive Garden, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Even though I was actually going to suggest a coffee date, but he suggested Olive Garden, so I was like, okay, that's fine. And you know, he was just it wasn't a vibe. It wasn't a vibe. He was really nice. He was very much a gentleman. But halfway through the date, I knew I'm not going to see him again. I don't really have any interest in even continuing this conversation. I was also having a personal feminine issue going on that night, so I felt really uncomfortable physically. And I wanted to be like, you know what, I'm just going to take off. You know, I had a nice time. I got to run. But that would have been, to me, what I felt like kind of rude. Now, a lot of women would disagree, but like, oh, if you didn't like it, you should have left. But I felt like we're in the middle of dinner. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and finish it. It wasn't that big of a deal, so I did. And then I had a few coffee dates where it wasn't the vibe was not vibing. And I did that, like, you know, I got to run. I got to go pick up my daughter or whatever. It's so nice to meet you. Grab my coffee, grab my keys, and go. That is really my preference. Okay, that's my preference. And I'm not saying this as someone who has not, I think a lot of times people, especially men, will pivot to, well, like, oh, well, you don't get invited to, well, I mean, not men, but definitely women, because women can get real catty about this. It's not that I've not been invited to dinner dates. I have enjoyed many, many dinner dates. I feel like it's a lot of pressure. I'm not even going to speak to a man's standpoint to spending, whether or not a man spends money. I just think to be quick to judge someone's character based on a preference, if they prefer, is, I think, just dumb. Also, I think to ascribe a defect, a personality defect to either a woman if she accepts a coffee date or a ice cream date, which is what I saw happening on Twitter. I don't really like Twitter. This is partly why, because I feel like people just attack people. And I saw actually somebody I knew, an old blogger friend, and I saw her talk about it on Facebook too. Like, she was getting attacked for suggesting that coffee dates are fine and ice cream dates are fine, and it's not a rejection of your worth. It's not a implication of your worth. And all these women were just going in on her as if she was a bad person for accepting this, as if you're accepting something that is an implication of your worth, and it's not that. It's not that. I don't think it's that at all. And I don't think it's helpful either to put those implications on men, that he's broke or doesn't value your time. Like, that's a lot. How do you expect a date to ever be successful if you're already starting off thinking all of these things about someone based on a preference? But also, I mean, actually, no, I'm not going to speak to the men thing, because that just changes the argument. I don't know what goes through men's head when they invite you to coffee or dinner or whatever. I will never pretend to know what goes through men's head. I really don't know. All I know is I'm the person for this last year of going on like a million dates. I am the person who has not spent anything, not a penny. And I've been on so many dates and done so many activities and done so much fun stuff and have not spent anything at all. So if men are taking me on dates, they're paying. That's my expectation. So, and that's my preference. And some women don't even have that preference. That doesn't mean anything about them. That just means that's what they prefer. If they prefer paying for their own coffee, if they prefer paying for half their first date, that's just their preference. I don't know personally those women, but I know they out there. I know that some women are like, don't pay for me. That's not me. I'm like, bro, you can pay for me. You can pay for me. But anyway, and I've went on some coffee or some dinner dates too that went really, really well. Like, there was a guy who I ended up dating last year for like, I think we went on like 6 or 8 dates. And because the distance, like we were traveling to meet each other for the first date, he was like, hey, let's go out to dinner and then let's go to da-da-da-da. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. But I had to drive over an hour to get there just because the distance between us and all that. And I knew he was staying in a hotel that night. And so it wouldn't have made sense for me to suggest coffee. But because of that, I was like, well, let's FaceTime first. And just to make sure that the vibe was vibing on FaceTime, because I knew if I drive all this way, if we have the dinner and the dinner goes well, like, he probably gonna get the coochie cat. That's what I was thinking. And he did. The dinner went very well. It was really nice. Like, it was like this really beautiful location off the water. It was lovely. I had such a great time. And so I'm saying this also as someone who, you know, has had really wonderful dinners. And then we had like 8 more weekly dinner dates after that were all just as beautiful and wonderful. And he travels for work all the time, and we couldn't make it work because of that, but it was a really lovely connection. So it's worked for me both ways. But if I were that chick in that viral screenshot that's going around that was like, I'm a 26-year-old woman and I don't do coffee dates, have a blessed life. What I might have said if it were me, what I might have said is, if that were me and if that were my preference, which is not, I might have said, hey, I don't do coffee dates, or I don't do ice cream dates. Would you be willing, or would you want to go to dinner somewhere? Or would you be willing to treat me to some dinner? Because I'm assuming that she's also a woman who doesn't like to pay for anything. which there's nothing wrong with. That's her preference. And so she will find a man who meets that preference. That's what I kind of feel like. We all will find men who meet that preference and vice versa. But anyway, I would have maybe done an alternative suggestion. Like if you're willing, this is what I think. I think if you're willing to have someone spend money on you, or vice versa, if I'm willing to spend money on somebody, I think there should be, this is just my opinion, I think there should be a bit of decorum about it. So if he was willing to spend money on her to go on an ice cream date, he probably would have been willing to spend money on her on a dinner if she had just asked, instead of just being like, I'm writing you off completely because you won't take me, because you're suggesting ice cream. That's where I think sometimes, because when I think about it, like if I were inviting a girlfriend out as a cishet straight woman, if I were inviting a girlfriend out for ice cream and I'm like, hey, you know, I'd love to see you and the kids, like if it was a mom date, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna treat you and your kids, I'm gonna bring my kids, I'm gonna treat you and your kids to ice cream. And she was like, oh, sorry, when I do mom dates, I don't do ice cream, but you know, I'll talk to you later, or, you know, have a blessed life. I'm like, I was gonna pay for you and your kids. Like, if you are really actually truly interested in getting to know me, then let's suggest an alternative that will work. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think she shot herself in the foot a little bit, but I have heard this so many times, and I have a friend who, well, a friend who used to be a friend, but she used to argue so she was blue in the face, like, if you're gonna spend $30 on foundation and $50 on highlighter and $60 on, you know, your handbag, and you're gonna look real professional, like you're gonna take me out to dinner, you're gonna show me what I'm worth, da da da. And I kind of feel like I know what I'm worth without somebody having to prove it to me to spend $100 or $150 on me on dinner, especially if that's not actually my preference. You don't have to spend money on me to prove my worth. I know my worth already. So I'm grateful for the men who did spend money on me, and I felt great about it. Like, hey, this dinner is going great. I've enjoyed almost all my dinner dates, but I've enjoyed all the coffee dates and all the ice cream dates too. So all I'm saying is, I think moving forward, to end this, because I gotta go, I think moving forward, it makes more sense for women just to be more upfront about our preferences. And I also think that about men too. Like, I don't think men watch this. I don't think men are watching my channel, but I feel like men, if you're gonna spend money on a woman you're legitimately trying to get to know, then ask her what she wants. Like, hey, where would you like to go? What are you thinking? Are you thinking Starbucks? Are you thinking Chinese? Are you thinking, you know, I was looking at this lovely little cafe on the water, you know, to get a gauge for what she might want. But I just think people are not communicating well. And if that's the case, if you're just really trying to get a dinner out of somebody, which I imagine a lot of men have their guards up, because a lot of women are just trying to get dinners out of somebody. I think for me, that's an integrity question. Like, why are you just trying to use somebody to get a free dinner? Like, in what world? In what world? In the same way I would question a man, like, why are you trying to use somebody to get sex? Like, in what world is that a good idea? Don't use people to try to get sex, and don't use people to try to get dinners. Like, come on, y'all, come on. So this is I'm literally under the assumption that I'm talking about people who actually literally genuinely want to get to know one another, literally genuinely want to build an actual real connection, are literally genuinely dating people to see, like, are you someone who we could explore to see if this is good for us to be in each other's life? Do we energetically vibe? Is our lives enough on the same path that this could be a really cool connection for us to go? I'm under that assumption. But if you're just trying to use a man for dinner, then yeah, this doesn't apply to you. But I was not doing that. I was legitimately on a path. Like last year, I was like, I'm gonna find me a boyfriend. I'm gonna find a nice boyfriend. It's the last thing I do. I'm gonna find a nice boyfriend. Update, I did not. I did not find a nice boyfriend. But I'm fine with that. Like, I learned so much in this last year of dating. I learned so much about what I don't want, what I do want. I had so much fun. But the main thing is that, especially since I was dating a lot of people, and I was very honest, like, I'm out here dating, I'm dating a lot of people. I was letting people know, like, you're not the only person I'm seeing. I'm seeing other people. I'm exploring my options. And when I become exclusive with somebody, I'm exclusive. But with me just being out there, like telling Megan, like, I'm out here dating. With me being honest like that, I let people know, like, I'm exploring genuine connections. And so there was just a lot of malleability and flexibility that I had. So I would have never, because I was exploring that, I'm only going to sit down to dinner with somebody or even a coffee or an ice cream date if I feel like that's a connection worthy of exploring. And if that's the case, then I'm going to be flexible and malleable. And I think for any men who is really trying to get to know me, or the men who are like really like, yes, I want to see you, I want to date you, I want to take you out, they also were showing a lot of flexibility and malleability. Like, if they said like, hey, let's go to Starbucks, and I was like, actually, I'm feeling Red Lobster, they were like, okay, cool, let's go to Red Lobster. And like I said, I didn't pay a pretty penny all year on no dates. So I didn't have any trouble meeting men who were willing to do that. And so when I saw that text and I saw that woman say, like, I'm 26 years old, which is just funny to me, like, now as an older woman, it just sounded, I'm not judging her. I don't know her at all. It just sounded so immature to me. It just sounded so like, it sounded like a temper tantrum is what it sounded like to me. Like, she's putting her foot down, like, I'm 26 years old, I deserve more than an ice cream date. That's how it came off to me. It's like her having a little temper tantrum about a man suggested ice cream. And I wanted to be like, honey, coming from your old auntie over here who's been around. Like, if you want a genuine connection with this man, if you like him or care about him, suggest an alternative, honey, and see what he say. But you just writing niggas off acting like the world is I don't know. I can't even with this younger generation. I know I'm sounding old now, but like the inability to communicate is so wild to me. And I have sons that are going into this dating realm, and I'm actually going to bring this up to my older son, and have a conversation with him about it. Like, if you ever suggest a Starbucks, because he's 17, so he's just on the cusp. He's never asked us if he can take anyone on a date or take the car. He doesn't drive yet anyway, but when he can drive, I think I'm gonna have this conversation with him. Like, if you suggest a date and a woman says she pushes back, then suggest something else. If you like her, if you care at all. If not, then just be like, yeah, I was gonna use you for sex or dinner anyway, and just y'all call it a day. That's anyway, y'all, it's a preference. It is a preference. Can we please just stop judging people for our preferences? Nobody would judge me because I say I prefer tall men. Well, I mean, maybe they would. Nobody judges a man when he say he like big titties. We all give each other a lot of different preferences. So why can't we just have a preference of what we like to do when we first meet someone? Which for some of us can cause a lot of anxiety, can cause panic attacks. We could be nervous. Like, first meeting somebody, especially someone who you might really like, this is under the assumption that you're trying to have a genuine connection. It can feel really overwhelming. Anyways, I'm gonna start talking about this, but ladies who are younger than me, communicate, okay? Just learn to communicate. Ask for what you want. If you are unwilling to accept a coffee or ice cream date, then state that up front. But I think it's foolish. I do think it's foolish. But you are allowed your preferences, baby girl, and you will find plenty of men willing to take you out and spend $100, $300 on a dinner if that is your preference and that is what you want. And I have realized, this is the last thing I'm gonna say, the more I've narrowed down what my preferences are and what I will like accept and not accept, the closer and closer and closer I've come to men who actually meet the standards that I'm having. Whereas before it was kind of wide open when I first started dating. Like, let me just see here, like, who's out here, who out here, and I was kind of like wide. And now I'm dating so much less because now it's very, very, I have this very small thing that I'm willing to accept. But the one thing that I'm going to be flexible on is what happens when we first meet. I'm looking for a genuine, real connection. I don't give a F what happens the first time we meet. But that's just my preference. But the standard that I has set is, it's such a narrow like my list now, my criteria for you, if you get any of my time whatsoever, is so small that it's weeding out like all of the people. I'm not even on dating apps anymore because they're not containing the quality of the man that I want, basically. So yeah, anyway, so y'all, that's my little 2 cent rant. Oh, happy birthday, Rebecca. Happy birthday. Anyway, y'all, state your preference, communicate clearly, and have fun dating, because if anything, dating should be fun. It should not be all of this drama. Dating should be fun. All right, bye y'all.